Hey Wanderers, welcome back to our channel. So as you can tell from the title below, I'm going to talk to you about my labor and delivery with Keegan. I'm going to share everything with you, all the little TMI stuff and things people may not know, family may not know maybe. But before I do that, I have a fun special announcement. Mariah had this awesome idea actually. And so every day for the month of April, we are going to do VEDA with you guys. VEDA, however you say it. So if you don't know what that is, every day we will be posting a new video. So we're going to get rid of weekly vlogs for the month of April. So every day from the 1st to the 30th, we will post a new video for you guys. I will start us off tomorrow, and then Mariah, and then me, and then Mariah, and so on and so forth. I figured this would be a great idea because Mariah is going to be super busy with moving, and with Dan working, I don't have a lot of opportunities to get out to Mariah's house. So this is a good way, even though we won't be in a lot of videos together this month, it's a good way to get a lot of content out to you guys. So we have lots of awesome ideas for you guys, but please feel free to message us any ideas you guys have, videos you want to see, and we will definitely get those out to you guys. So let's get right into the video. So one of the biggest questions I seem to get based around Keegan is, was he planned? And the answer is no, he definitely wasn't planned. I fell pregnant with Keegan when Maya was probably 5.5 months old, I'd say. So even though we weren't trying for another baby, we were also not preventing another baby. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you didn't want another baby, why didn't you use protection? We just didn't. There's nothing you can really say about it. We didn't prevent it. We weren't trying. It happened. We love him. Excuse my phone. Sorry. Anyway, so he wasn't planned, wasn't prevented. I was about 5.5 weeks when I found out I was pregnant. And yes, we were both extremely terrified. We were living in an apartment with Dan's brother. I mean, Maya was still so little. I think when we found out, she would have been like 6 months, 6.5 months. No. She would have been like 6.5, 7 months. I'm sorry guys, my brain, the math, not working out. Anyways, we were scared. We were living in an apartment. I mean, we just had Maya. She was still a baby. We were planning a wedding. I had a wedding dress I needed to fit into. Financially, were we going to be able to afford a baby? We were looking at houses. We wanted to make sure our wedding was paid off. There was a lot of different factors going on, and emotionally, we both were just like, what are we going to do? But I believe my mother and my 3 best friends were the first to know, I believe. Yes, I believe so. So we felt that we would wait until the wedding to tell everyone, basically. So when the wedding rolled around, I was 16.5 weeks pregnant, and I fit into my wedding dress because I didn't have like a bump or anything, but I mean, these suckers were like, if you look at some of my wedding photos, you can tell they're kind of like popping out and, you know, not quite fitting into that area of my dress, but everything was okay. So I wanted to tell family our big announcement at the wedding dinner. Dan didn't like that idea. He felt like we should wait because everybody was drinking and he wasn't sure how some family members might take the news. He didn't want to risk people being upset and people being under the influence while upset. So as much as I wanted to make a big announcement at the wedding, I had to respect his wishes. So we actually told Dan's parents and grandparents and some of our friends at the breakfast the day after our wedding, and for the most part everyone was happy, other than there was a few comments, but I think a lot of people were just really concerned because we are so young. We are one income family. They knew we wanted to buy a house. literally just got married. And again, Maya was, by the time the wedding rolled around, she was only 9 months old. So I found out Keegan was a boy between 18 and 20 weeks. I'm not exactly sure when. Justine took me to my ultrasound with Maya. I have some photos I'll insert. So once we found out he was a boy, we began the process of deciding on a name, and Dan and I absolutely could not agree on a name. For the longest time, I was dead set on the name Luca. If I ever have another boy in the future, that will be his name regardless of whether Dan wants to name him that or not. But I was dead set on Luca, and Dan was like, no. And I don't even remember some of the other names we had chosen, but they were all no's. And then one day I was watching Daily Bumps, and they kept saying Oliver's name and they called him Ollie, and I'm just like, oh, that's kind of cute. And so I mentioned it to Dan, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, Oliver. So that was his name. We were going to name him Oliver, Ollie for short. And it wasn't until I was probably 33 or 34 weeks pregnant that I was like, you know what? I don't like that name. Some family members came up with nicknames for him, and I think it kind of ruined it for me because I really didn't like the nicknames that they came up with. And then I was watching a little, it was something to do with Pretty Little Liars. It was like a interview type episode, and Keegan, who plays Toby, I kept hearing his name, Keegan, 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 and I was like, oh my god, I absolutely love that. And I ran it by Dan, and he really liked it. So Oliver became Keegan, and we call him Keegi and Keegs and Keegi boy, and yeah, so that's how that happened. So I had a really good pregnancy with Keegan. I gained 30 pounds this time around, again, all in my stomach. I didn't swell up anywhere else. I wasn't sick all the time. So at 34 weeks, I went in for an OB appointment, and I was already 3.5 centimeters dilated. And they were like, oh, not this again. Because if you watched my birth story with Maya, you know that I dilate, but I don't contract, and it's very frustrating. So then when I went in at 36 weeks, I was 4 centimeters dilated, and then after that, you go every week. But anyways, when I went in for 37 weeks, I can't remember the name of the doctor that I had. She was just doing my checkup. And she was like, oh, so you're the girl who dilates but doesn't contract. So she checked me and everything like that. And she's like, you know what? The doctors are going to have a meeting tonight, and we're going to discuss whether we're going to bring you in and induce you, break your water, or we're just going to let you go until you go. And I was like, oh, isn't that nice? So she never called me, so I knew that they decided to just let me go whenever I went into labor. And then the next week, at 38 weeks when I went in, I was, I think, 5.5 centimeters, if I remember correctly. And they were like, oh, lordy lord. Anyways, so I was 41 weeks on the Monday, but on the Saturday, I was 40 weeks, 5 days. It was Valentine's Day. I had lower back pain, so Dan took me to the hospital, and the on-call doctor, which I believe was Dr. Colley, he said, do some laps around the hospital, walk around, hang out a bit. If you don't progress within a couple hours, I'm gonna send you home. If you do, we will break your water and do what we need to do to have the baby. So we did a bunch of laps. I think we were there for 2 to 3 hours, and he checked me again, and I hadn't progressed anymore, and I wasn't having like actual contractions. So he's like, you know what, go home, we'll call you Monday. So Monday morning comes around. I'm 41 weeks pregnant at this point. I'm just done with being pregnant. It's one thing to gain 30 pounds everywhere. It's another thing to gain 30 pounds in one spot when you are 110 pounds to begin with. So I was just completely done. I was so uncomfortable. So at 8:30 that morning, I arrived at the hospital, and they put my IV in, and they got me registered. And then at 9 a.m., Dr. Kamet was my doctor who delivered Keegan. She came in and she checked me, and I was 7.5 centimeters, but I still wasn't contracting, obviously. So she was like, okay, we're gonna break your water. So she went and did what she needed to do to get ready, and she came back in at 9:30. She broke my water. I did want an epidural this time for sure, like I knew that right away. So I think I got the epidural within 15 minutes, I believe, of her breaking my water. Thank the Lord. And so she broke my water at 9:30, and by 1 o'clock, I was like, boom, 10 centimeters, let's go, we're starting to push. So I pushed maybe 3 times, and at 1:04, Keegan was born. He was an ounce shy of 10 pounds. So he was 9 pounds, 15 ounces, and 21 1/4 inches long, if I remember correctly. So he was big, so was Maya. And it's funny because I never thought he was going to be a big baby because he always sat so high up. They told me, oh, he's not heavy enough to drop yet. So I was like, oh, he's going to be a tiny baby, thank the Lord. No. So I didn't need any stitches this time, but Keegan actually, when I pushed him out, he had a big cut under his armpit, and he actually still has a scar from it to this day. So he has the battle scars from my labor and delivery with him. And I stayed in the hospital for 1 night by myself with him so Dan could be with Maya, so that it wasn't too traumatic for her, because she was exactly 15 months when Keegan was born. So I mean, she was still a baby. She wasn't totally sure what was going on, where mommy was. And it was so cute when she came to visit me in the hospital, just when she walked in and saw me holding him, and she was always so gentle with him, and baby, baby, mommy's belly, like, it was so friggin' adorable. There was never really a huge jealousy thing with her. There was the odd time where we'd have to say, like, no, you need to be gentle with your brother, but she was never physically mean to him and crying because, like, I was holding him and all that kind of stuff. So that was good. So for my recovery, I didn't need stitches, but I bled a lot. I had very severe blood clots with Keegan, and I actually didn't fully heal with Keegan until I was around 12 weeks, and I actually had to be put on an antibiotic at 8 weeks because the bleeding was so heavy and it wouldn't slow down that I got an infection. So that was awful. You're just uncomfortable all the time, and you just feel gross. You never feel good. It doesn't matter how many times you shower, how much makeup you put on, how nice your hair looks, you never feel like yourself. So yes, at my 12-week postpartum appointment, when I was pretty much completely recovered, Dr. Komet put my Mariah IUD in, and I also, for a brief period of time, went on a medication for postpartum depression. I was just having a hard time dealing with raising 2 young babies by myself because Dan worked in the city at that point, so he was gone early Monday morning till late Friday night. It was just me, and I had help from family, but I mean, living on my own with 2 small children it was scary. And I managed, but I needed that little extra push for a little while. And it was a couple months that I was on the medication, and I came off of it because I actually started to hallucinate. I would see and hear things that weren't actually happening, and that's not okay at any point, especially not when you're alone raising 2 young children. I came off that, and everything's been fine ever since then, and Keegan is now a super healthy, happy, how old is he now? He is 13.5 months old, right? Wait. Yep, 13.5 months old. It honestly does feel like just yesterday that I had him. I don't know, my labor and delivery with him was actually really good, and it's one of those things that you hold on to because it was so good. Obviously, I cherish all the memories with Maya when I gave birth to her, but it was such a scary, traumatic experience for me because it was my first time being in labor and delivering a baby. That was my labor and delivery with Keegan. If there's anything I forgot to mention that you want to know, drop it in the comments and I'll answer it. So we will see you in our next video. Bye guys.